Peter on the call.
TGIM, thank God it is Monday, today the 1st of July, 2024. Happy new financial year. Such a milestone that is almost never celebrated, yet it has more impact on many things than even the calendar beginning of year, especially to the Ugandan who either has to pay more taxes or less taxes, since those changes often happen at the beginning of the financial year. Those that have been waiting maybe for their salary increase to either be approved or rejected, usually it's at the beginning of the financial year that they get to know whether, like they say in Luganda, chise moba chiyise. It's an important gate, and so today our conversation is just to discuss a general outlook of the new financial year and the state of affairs, especially in Uganda. As we wait for our conversationists to join in, we shall start nevertheless. Let us pray as we begin. Heavenly Father, in the name of Christ Jesus, we thank you for this afternoon. This is a day you have made. We are glad. We thank you for the opportunity of work, the opportunity to serve you. As we have this conversation this afternoon, speak to us, edify us, challenge us, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Once again, you are welcome. You're welcome to this session of Thank God It is Monday. Those joining us for the first time, Thank God It is Monday is an informal conversation where we celebrate work and all factors that affect work. Today marks the beginning of the national year 2024-2025. And it's an exciting place to be. So as we wait for guest conversationists, we could just have a conversation. I'll just, one of our guest conversationists is already in the house, but still, let me, as he settles in, let me give an opportunity to just one person share with us any quick outlook that you want to share with us before we get to our guest conversationists. What are your expectations in this financial year? Are you excited? Are you worried? Are you to whom it may concern? Whatever. Anyone ready to share with us? Briefly, 30 seconds or 1 minute, and then we'll get to our guest. Jacqueline, you have unmuted. I guess that means that you have something hot you want to say. Jacqueline Chizito Lukoma.
No, I don't have anything to say.
Still tell us, private sector, are you excited about the new financial year, Jacqueline? Or it's business as usual?
Might be business as usual. There's nothing exciting. Nothing has really changed. To me, everything seems the same.
Stamp duty has been increased, no? Stamp duty on company registration, and I saw I think a 5,000 increased on most of the payments. That definitely that affects you.
It affects me, but it affects my clients more.
You transfer the cost.
So the cost of registering, helping clients out is going to increase a bit.
Wow. Yeah, definitely that is true. I saw that most of the processes in Uganda Registration Service Bureau, there's a slight increment on those, and definitely the end user, and maybe even profit margins for some who cannot easily increase their charges will happen. Our guest conversationists, today we have two guest conversationists. One is, at least I can see one already in the house, and I know the second one is also about to join in. I just spoke to her a short while ago. So Mr. Robert Mutyaba is the managing director of RBM. He will tell us what RBM is all about. And he is an Oxid. If you're not an Oxid, then I don't know what you are. You had better come join that Oxid program, the greatest leadership program in the land, and you will be equipped to be transformational. And he's an ICT specialist and many things. He's into a number of social enterprises. I visited his project the other day, and he is doing great things in the communities in Jinja and the rest of Uganda. Robert, you're welcome to share with us your perspectives on the new financial year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ernest. You've already introduced me. I want to thank you for introducing me. Usually when people introduce you, they say a lot of very nice things about you, and you have to accept them. I just want to confirm if you can hear me very well.
Loud and clear.
Excellent. I am happy to be here, and I can see quite a number of people that I know, and I want to welcome all of you. I see among the people that I know, I see Dr. Luweza. Of course, I see Apofia, Dr. Apofia, and Dr. Ernest. Others, I think I'm yet to know them. I know that I have interacted with some of them, like Dr. Eunice Kateshumbwa, I think on this very platform. But even those that I do not know, I want to welcome all of you to this conversation this afternoon. RBM is an enterprise organization that provides software solutions for businesses. We have built a comprehensive all-around education management platform that we are beginning this very year. Rollout. I'm happy to share more about provide accounting solutions. We provide management information systems to organizations, and we've done this. I have been doing this for the past 20 years. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy serving Christ in the area of discipleship, in the space of discipleship and mentoring young people. And I'm a father and a husband. I thank God I'm blessed with 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. And I'm also aging gracefully. This afternoon, we have our topic, basically a general outlook on the financial year 2024-2025. Welcome to the new year. Today is 1st of July, 2024. But for us in business, it actually starts a new financial year. It starts a new financial year. And so as we begin the new financial year, I'd like to welcome all of you with all our aspirations and aspirations into the new financial year. I was thinking about where we can have our conversation. And as we were jetting into this new financial year, there are about 3 critical things that have happened in the country. We just had the national budget read, I think it was on the 13th of June. And then we just had the national census carried out in May. And the results again were just released just recently in June. Now, bringing these 2 together, they speak a lot to rattling the feathers and looking at where are we going as a country. And then I just picked up a report from the IGG on corruption and where we stand. And these things kind of give me the mixed feelings that I think that this afternoon we can put our conversation around. I decided to do a quick PowerPoint and just throw in a few information bits that I want us to look at to start up our conversation. To start with, I wanted us to look at the fiscal performance. If you look at the fiscal performance of the country, I have picked this exactly straight from the budget speech. You note that the last financial year, the domestic revenue was 27.725 trillion against a projection of 29.672 trillion. So we fell short by 1.9 trillion. Now, the Revenue Authority is working very hard. Was working very hard in the remaining days of the year. We are yet to see the report. Finally, as of yesterday, what the Revenue Authority managed to do, whether they managed to close that gap. But then we have projected that in the next financial year, it will be 31.982 trillion. Now, that is an increase from last year's projection of about almost 3 trillion shillings that we have to collect. There's some interesting data that I looked at sometime towards the end of the financial year that showed the statistics of taxpayers. But that means that we as the taxpayers need to brace ourselves because we need to raise a little bit more money in the coming financial year. And then the growth potential has been projected to be between 6.4 and 7% or double digit in the next financial year. According to the finance minister, he says the economy is projected to get back to Uganda's steady state growth. It's quite interesting because In the previous financial year, we've had quite a number of shocks. We've had the World Bank withdrawing funding. We've had the US withdrawing funding and threatening us with many things. And it's interesting that we still kept going, but there are areas, of course, of catch, and there are quite a number of stresses. One of the things that I didn't quite understand in the previous was that we struggled a lot. I am one of the people that have not been paid by the government for almost now 2 years, and the government claims that there's no money. But then when I look at these things, I see that we are almost hitting the targets. Okay, anyway, we'll come back to that. The GDP is projected to expand to $60 billion or 225 trillion. And this now includes oil and gas. I did not include here the statistics from oil and gas, but we do have very good numbers from oil and gas, and we pray that these things can materialize into something pretty good for the country. Now, there is an estimate about how are we going to achieve this ambitious plan in the next 15 years and the things that we must deliberately do. One is like double the size of the GDP every 5 years. I don't know how practical that is going to be. Another target we need to do is raise per capita 6-fold from $1,146 to $7,000 by the year 2039, 2040. Now, this is the year 2024. The year 2034 will mark 10 years. So 39 is just about 15 years. In the past almost 10 years, we've been trying to move from $700 US, and we have only reached 1,146. We want to double the level of savings, raise our exports from 12%, 50%. We want to increase annual foreign domestic investment inflows from 2.9 billion to 50 billion. And then accumulate the stock and quality of human capital, skilled workers, physical capital, energy, rail, and so on. Physical capital should be what? To be accumulated. Now, I am trying to quickly throw these around so that they can aid our conversation. I have today seen a little video. I do not have it here. I would have shared it, but I can share it with Dr. O on our platforms later about a facility that is being put up as you come from Masaka. You will see a facility for raising the level of our technology so that we can enter into manufacturing. We have the Kira. But then I was asking myself, how are we going to finance this very, very tough budget? Okay, so if you look here, we are looking at a total resource envelope of 72 trillion, of which we are going to raise 31 trillion. What does that tell you? 31 trillion out of 72 trillion, we are raising lower than 50% of what we need for that financial year. And only 29% is the tax revenue out of the 29 trillion. Out of the 72, only 29 trillion is money we hope to raise from tax. And then the non-tax revenue will be 2.6 trillion. Then we expect to get budget support of 1.3 trillion, domestic borrowing of 8 trillion, treasury bonds for settlement of government outstanding obligations of 7 trillion. I need to manage my time. Okay, we have 22 minutes gone. Domestic refinancing of maturing domestic debt of 12 trillion. Petroleum fund drawdown 115 billion. Project support external financing 9.583 trillion. And then local government revenue only 293 billion. This is how we hope to raise this money. Okay, that's the fiscal performance. Then the public debt is another thing that we need to actually think about. We have public debt as of December 2023 of 93.38 trillion, which is composed of external debt of 55 trillion and domestic debt of 38 trillion. But it was projected by the close of the year yesterday, it will be 97 trillion. Now, public debt, which is estimated at 46.9%, is being said to be below the Global Charter of Physical Responsibility, which is supposed to be 52.4%. So according to the Ministry of Finance, we are still within the right bracket. But remember, at the close of the year, we were reaching 47.9%. So I am worried that we want to hit the maximum before we feel that we have gotten into red. The last time I checked, and I need to check again, the Ministry of Finance has a budget portal. The last time I think I checked, 35% of our budget was going into paying interest, on debt, on external debt. And I can tell you that when I last checked, that when we had the total budget was it 48 trillion and 17 trillion was to pay debt. And I get worried about this. So this is the summary of the things that we're talking about. These things are available in the budget paper. But I just want us to now consider corruption. The GG says corruption has a face. The lavish lifestyle that is not commensurate with one's legitimate income is the face of corruption. And the highlight shows that the total cost of corruption in Uganda is estimated at 9.144 trillion per year, which is equivalent to 44% of the total government revenue as of 2019. So now you look at 44% into corruption, you look at 35% into paying interest on debts. I think paying debt and interest, I think the two are combined. So if you look at 35 plus 44 is about 79%. So almost 80% of the money that is raised in this country is actually going to waste. We only utilizing 20% and growing into debt. And so curbing corruption, which is costing us 9.1 trillion in the total cost, security costs 4.2. You can imagine what the 9.1 trillion that goes to corruption would have been able to cover. Education is only allocated 3.4 trillion and and then agriculture was 760 billion and less than a trillion, and water and environment 654 billion, less than a trillion. And you look at what is possible in the country, and we can do a lot in agriculture. I'm involved in the agriculture. Everybody will eat every day, and we can begin to look at exporting food. I see that we have foreigners coming here to set up very serious farms. We have some of the largest farms in places you didn't know they existed, like I think the largest vanilla farm on Katwesigye Road, and I think the largest macadamia farm somewhere in Mutyaba. But all of these are for export, but are also being done by foreigners. 5 cost areas of corruption. It's 2.3 in salaries paid to non-present workers. So the biggest chunk of it is wasted through that syndicate. And then the loss of environmental resources is the second largest at 2.2. The others, interestingly, contracts is 800 billion. It's less than a trillion. In corruption in procurement is 614. Maybe when you combine the two, you are in a trillion. And then bribing judicial officials, 760. There are others that you can look at, like loss in education hours to students, teachers who are not there to actually teach, the cost of bribing judicial officers, the environmental pollution, the cost of bribing officials, and many others the cost of bribing tax officials is only 26.8. So I come to a conclusion that we are performing pretty well as a country when it comes to generating tax with a very, very small tax base, and also with a minimum loss of revenue being within the tax collection. But looking at the statistics as they stand now, we see that 50% of the Ugandans are below the age of 17. The population is growing at about 11.3 million per year, and 1 million more women than men. I think that's good because we are more balanced. But you then realize that you have this regional distribution of the populations, showing you the biggest population, maybe not density, the biggest population being in Uganda. These statistics missed out something that I really wanted to understand, that requires me to now go and calculate. I wanted to know the population density of the regions. If you tell me Karamoja has 1.4 million people, I want to know the population density of Karamoja, not just the 1.4 million people. How much land is there and how much coverage is on that land? As we look at some of the things that we have in the NDP 3, like wrapping up agriculture, where is the agriculture land? And things like those. Now, looking at the statistics that we have as a country, there are now 10 million households with approximately 4.4 people in each house. That means I'm living in one of the highest populated houses, because in my house we are 7. We are 7 people. This has already been said, but maybe to analyze a little bit more, that we have more younger people right now, age 0 to 17, 50% of the country's population. Youth 18 to 30 is 22.7%. So in other words, below 30 years is 73% of the country's population is below 30 years of age. Now, that has advantages and disadvantages. The 50% are all in education. Probably that explains why the education sector right now is a very, very booming sector, because half of the Uganda population, at minimum, half of it is in school. Because even within the 22.7%, you actually do have a good percentage. I almost want to put it at 10 that is in school, because university education is usually closing at 22 years. I would need to go back to the statistics to see the bracket, how many people are in that bracket. Unfortunately, they did not give us the 30 to 50 bracket. They jumped and they did above 60, and then they did 14 to 64. So I have a gap there. But anyway, we see that people above 60 years are 5%, and then 55.6 are between 14 and 64. Again, that's a very broad range to know how that plays in the economy. But distribution of this population, we see that Buganda has the biggest population, followed by Busoga, then West Nile, and then Itoro, and then others follow. These have implications on how they'll play in the economy. But of course, we clearly see that Central, which is Buganda, has the highest population, will hold the biggest economy, host the biggest economy. And so if you want to change something in the country, you really begin from the Central. If the Central hears it, the rest of the country has had it. There is a statistics I looked at that I thought is also important with what I have said, that how many people are visiting the different cities daily. So the daily visitors, the day population, and the person who visits the city during daytime for the last 14 days prior to the date of enumeration. So the day visitors in Kampala are 627,000 people. Now that has a very, very significant impact on the economy. But then if you compare it, it dwarfs all the other cities. In Mbarara with 63,000, Gulu 91,000, Masaka 42, Hoima 48, Lira City 57, Mbale 81, Jinja 70, Arua 59, Fort Poto 41, and Soroti 86. Now you realize that Soroti, Mbale, Lira, right now, including of Lira, Jinja, they are all along the same route. And you see the significance of the infrastructure, the road infrastructure going to the eastern, to Mbale, and across to Soroti. Very, very critical because it is moving a very huge population. Actually, the whole population now, probably including Gulu, is using this route. And so I see that as we go into the next financial year, these are some of the areas where we can see we need to put priorities and where we can see the challenges that are going to face us and the things on which we stand. Now, what do you see? Personally, as a business person, there are quite a number of more intricate details, like in the value-added tax, the income tax, and the changes that have come in, for example, for the employees, that if I am going to give my employers, fortunately, I do software, so I have nothing to give my employers. But if I was Maganjo, and I'm going to give my employers a hamper and give each of them 2 bags of posho, and maybe some porridge and everything, the new financial year proposes to tax those employees to pay the VAT. I think, is it only the VAT? Yeah, to be taxed on what the employer has donated. So I see more stress in terms of tax to the few people that are paying the tax. And for us to be able to stretch, I'm really curious and very interested to see if we've managed from the 13th of June, when this was presented, to the 30th of June, that's about 27 days? No, 17 days. In the 17 days, 2 weeks, whether we've been able to connect the 1.9 trillion, it doesn't sound possible at all. But we have pushed this one up to 31.9 trillion. Actually, that's 32 trillion. Round off to the nearest, 32 trillion. And so I see that even as we are having a lot of fights, you know, the EFRIS standoff is still there. All of this is geared at raising more tax. And so I see us getting into a year with more stress with tax, and without expanding the tax base, with more taxpayers dropping out, the government will need to come up with very, very special ways to try and encourage people to formalize tax payment, but also it needs a lot of wisdom and leadership to take care of the existing taxpayers. The problem with the stress with tax is the more you stress the people, the more people find ways of avoiding the tax. The more people are pushed the wall, they actually seek help. For a number of years, we have been taxed on imports of vehicles based on URA's predefined vehicle value, which the court has overturned a number of times. And now law firms are rising up to threaten to sue URA for blatantly ignoring the law. What does that also mean? That there's going to be a reduction in the coming financial year on the amount of tax that will be raised. Now, let me quickly jump and go to corruption. Corruption is a challenge that we need to deal with as a country, but for which we are not showing the will to deal with. The other day, the president sounded a war alarm, saying he's opening one. We know quite a number of MOPs in hot soup, if I might say. But we also know, and the videos have been going around, it's on clear record, that the Speaker of Parliament has gone and sanitized, for example, MOP Semoju, and said, your daughter is coming back, she's in good spirit, I have seen her, and don't worry. And the people have also said, at least we've been sharing together. And so this poses a big, big, big challenge for us as a country. And in the next financial year, it's, for me, I wait to see what the government is really going to be able to do, what His Excellency the President is going to be able to do to try and stem corruption. Because what needs to be done, there seems not to be a will. There seems not to be a will to do it. I think I have had him one time, the Baganda say, Okuba Konsoroboto, you know, stopping the IGG in her effort, saying, you know, you go slow on these people if you're not taking money out of the country. So corruption will continue, in my view, to be a big problem in the next financial year, and it doesn't have a good outlook. But it's good that there is a sounding voice that we need to deal with corruption. I haven't looked at the birth rates and the growing birth rates, but clearly 11.3 million people is enough statistics for us to see that the population is going to continue growing, at least for now. Our fertility rates as a country are up there. If you divide 11.3 by 12, you have 900. You have 941,000 people per month. And that simply translates to, if a month you get 941 people born, I believe the statistics are in the document, in the detailed document, but that translates to about 31,000 people being born every day. 30,000 people being born every day, there is a reduction in mortality. There's quite a lot. There's been improvement in the expectancy, in the life expectancy. And so overall, there are sectors that will continue booming. And so I think that farming and agriculture are things that we should be thinking of doing. I think that education sector will continue booming, and anything that fits into the education sector, anything that fits into the youth, anything that fits into the young population is a good area to invest into. I also think that from a security perspective, management perspective, in digital life is going to be more challenging, and we need to put up mechanisms to make sure that we can retain the sanity of our youth and help them to channel the energies and the digital life into more productive life. I want to end there and just throw this back to Dr. Katwesigye, that we may all now chew on this outlook that I have painted the picture around statistics, corruption, and the national budget. Over to you, Dr. Katwesigye.
Wow, thank you very, very much, Mr. Mutyaba, for taking us through in a detailed fashion those three key areas, especially the budget. You know that many of us as Ugandans almost never really give much actual thought to. Thank you very, very much for that. And before we open it up, our second guest speaker is with us, Jorine Karyn, who is a law student and was the 6th Guild President at Victoria University. She is an amazing lady, a Rotaractor, and many other things. She'll tell us much more about herself and also share with us her perspective as a youth on the outlook on the 2024-2025 financial year. Jorine, you are welcome to share with us. your perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With our previous speaker, thank you so much for the detailed presentation that you gave about, am I being heard?
Yes, we are hearing you.
All right. Thank you for the detailed presentation that you have given about corruption, budgets, and the general outlook for Uganda's financial year 2024. I will ride on your submissions and probably just add in a few things in regards to youth and the skilling opportunities available for the young people, employability rate, and all the opportunities that are there for the young people. Now, considering the sustainable development goals as well. Well, our previous speaker talked about the financial outlook for Uganda, and in summary, we can all agree that we have an approved national budget of 72.136 trillion. That is approximately US dollars 19.5 billion, which is a significant increase from the initial projection of the 58 trillion of the previous financial year. And we also, in this national budget, we have a recurrent expenditure of 18.9 trillion and a development expenditure of 34.7 trillion. And the priority allocation is for human capital development. They're focusing on education, healthcare, and skills development. But how has this been implemented by the government? I still strongly believe that the government is lacking when it comes to the implementation of the budget. When you look and read through the budget, or if you have followed our previous speaker about how he has demystified it in details, he has shown the allocation of this money, but the general outlook is, will everything allocated and the priorities being talked about in this budget be implemented by the persons responsible? Because he also talked about a very interesting and controversial topic, which is corruption. Now, when it comes to corruption, how are we going to curb this as a nation? Because it is not only the duty of the president. We have seen scenes of NRM members of parliament being arrested, but is this leading the nation to a clear picture that corruption is being fought against by the president, or it is actually empowering the people to keep on being corrupt? Because the speaker just recently, when she was giving her speech in one of the districts of the arrested member of parliament, clearly stated that if she stole and shared with you, where's the problem? And this shows that we, the young people, are being shown a different picture, that we should actually steal and share with the people. Is it the case? Is this how we should ride? My presentation is more of posing questions and looking at everything that is going on around the nation. What should we as young people resort to? Because there is a budget for skills development and education. Skills development is helping the young people get employment. But is it really implemented? You realize that there is a national project from the Office of the President skilling young people who have not gone to school with the different skills like mechanical engineering, hairdressing, baking, among others, which is a very good one. Now, how about the people who are at university and pursuing different courses. But after graduation, they're not going to find their jobs. They're going to end up working in mobile money shops. They're going to end up working, establishing a tiduka in town, selling clothes. Yes, these are actually lawyers. These are doctors. But because of the implementation of this budget that has just been passed, or even those ones that have been passed before and those ones that are going to come, there is actually not going to be progress. And the development of artificial intelligence is also putting the young people at a greater disadvantage for those who are not willing to adjust. But for those willing to adjust, there is a very, very great advantage for them. And the young people here on this call, I urge you to make use of artificial intelligence to create jobs for yourself and to venture into, to diversify into other projects like climate change and sustainable energy development. For the lawyers, we can see how to administer the justice in the country. And petroleum, oil and gas is a very good field. So we can always venture into such projects and generally work on the budget together. This has been a very interesting topic. I do not have a lot to say from the previous speakers' detailed presentation, but let us work together to see that we can all benefit from this budget. A wise man there is a wise saying that says that the money is already printed and it is up to us to go and pick it from wherever it is. We can pick it from wherever it is by diversifying into different sectors like tourism and the others that I have just talked about. Otherwise, thank you, Doctor, for such a great opportunity for me to discuss with you on the general outlook of Uganda's financial year and other topics. We look forward to a greater opportunities and engagements as these ones. I hope my submission has been productive as well. And probably I could share a write-up to you, which you can share with the members that are here in regards to the same. Because of the interest of time, I remain Jorine Karyn as introduced earlier. I'm a law student at Victoria University. I am a Rotaract, yes. I also volunteer at Raising Hope International Friends, which is an NGO dealing with members affected with sickle cell, the sickle cell disease, and also gender-based violence. We help them out through that organization. And I have also served as the 6th Guild President at Victoria University. Thank you very much for the opportunity and have a very good afternoon.
Thank you very, very much, Kata, for sharing with us those perspectives. And thank you, Robert, as well. Definitely you've helped to bring some practical perspective to the topic. Maybe before I even get into the chat room, just one quick question, Kata. Do you feel that the education that you are receiving is equipping you effectively to tackle the financial year? What are your thoughts on that? And especially what is your comment on the fact that I think that the percentage was 70 something of Ugandans are actually youths and children. What's your quick comment on that?
I'm very sorry I missed you. Someone had engaged me. Could you please pardon me?
Okay, yes. Do you feel the education that you are receiving is equipping you effectively to tackle life as it is in this financial year? Or yes, and what is your quick comment about the fact that the majority of Ugandans are young people?
Oh, thank you so much for this question. I actually forgot to mention that in the budget, and the results that came from you bosses counting or census, the majority of the Ugandans are young people. Luckily for me, the education I am receiving is part of the digital transformation, and it is equipping me well with the next financial year. Unlike other people, at Victoria University, we are doing blended learning, which is both online and physical. That is equipping us with how to tackle the world using the artificial intelligence tools. And this is a very, very good thing. Kudos to our principal, Dr. Lawrence Muganga, who is the vision bearer of this great, great program. But in the traditional universities or traditional schools that are actually the majority of Uganda's education sector, the education they are receiving is still the traditional education that requires a student to come to class and attend physical classes, to write exams on a stipulated day in stipulated time, which is not the way to go in the modern world that is evolving day after the other. So I feel personally, that the education sector should be revolved to equip or to accommodate the digital transformations that have been made in the country, because this is what the world is moving on to. And if we do not accept the change now, it is going to affect the young people further in the latter stages. But if we accommodate this change now, the younger people will benefit from it. The biggest problem with our generation is that we do not want to access information, yet information is actually everywhere. On Twitter, on social media, we have artificial intelligence tools that can equip us with all the information that we require. But because we are a generation of spoiled, should I call ourselves spoiled? I think I can agree that we are spoiled young people who do not acquire, who do not seek knowledge, who do not acquire ourselves with information. You can find that out of 10 young people right now, only 2 know about what is transpiring in the budget. Some young people have heard about IFRIS, but they do not understand what it is. So they are not even bothered into knowing what IFRIS actually is and how it is affecting the economic sector of our country. But if we accommodate ourselves with the digital learning platforms, and we blend the education sector with both online tools and physical tools, as there has been for a very long time, we are going to attain an education that is inspiring, an education that teaches us how to acquire the knowledge rather than knowing things and just leaving them there. But we shall be knowing and understanding. And this is the education that is good for Uganda and for the younger people. Also, the beauty about the older people of this generation is that for them, they want to acquire the knowledge. They keep on reading new things and they keep on wanting to know new things, which is not the case for the young people. Young people, we have to be forced to know. You realize that in schools, teachers are holding sticks, they are putting deadlines, submit this work before this day or not, you're not going to sit the exams, all those precautions made to motivate the younger people to seek the knowledge, which is not actually the case with the older people. The older people will seek the knowledge without even being forced because they know it is important for them to know. Now, as an education sector that is going to transform the generation and to touch Uganda's heart, we need to motivate the young people into knowing that there are jobs ready for them at the end of the day, and knowing well that we are going to benefit from this education that we are seeking. Because now the only thing that is available is to study, graduate, and get that pass or that transcript. But there is no practical bit of the education. We need to find the practical skills by diversifying the economy into different activities, like I had talked about earlier, and also motivating the young people to seek knowledge because it is just as important for them as it is for the older people. I hope I have answered that question.
Thank you very much, Kata. Yes, you definitely have given us good insights, and kudos to Victoria University. And yes, I have interacted with some people doing a postgraduate study at Victoria University, and it's an amazing university. A few comments in the chat room as we bring this almost to a close. Alan Guma, Pastor Alan says, Mr. Mutyaba, thank you for helping us gain more understanding of the national budget and census reports and the economy as a whole. Precious Nisima says, yes, thank you, Mr. Mutyaba, for the presentation. Dr. Adibi says, hello, everyone. Thank you, Brother Robert, for the presentation. Why do countries, governments borrow money? That is to you, Robert. Why do countries borrow money? And as a question to Miss Karyn, what do Ugandan young people learn from what happened in Kenya recently? And then now there's a question from Mr. Mutyaba, who is supposed to be answering questions, and instead he's asking us questions. Where is it? I saw something about, I actually have a question. Somewhere in the budget, it shows how this is going to be distributed around. Speaks of parish development model and others. I personally have not seen any effects of PDM. How do I benefit? Do I qualify? What and why is the monitoring to confirm it is working? Maybe one of these sessions we need to bring someone to talk about programs like PDM, but the little I have gathered is that it is a distributive fund of sorts, mainly targeting, I have come associating with associates of PDM. I have come to learn a new word, abayirivi, that it is targeting abayirivi, those that live hand to mouth. Okay, so definitely, Mr. Mutyaba, unfortunately, you don't qualify. It is targeting that woman with a stall in the market, that mobile money operator, and I think it is targeting each parish to get at least 50 people, each get 1 million, which they are supposed to invest and repay, so that it makes a revolving fund, which we are watching to see what the impact will be. So our time is up in 30 seconds. Robert, you could respond to the one question and also give your parting shots. Then Kata will also respond to her one question also in 30 seconds and give her parting shots. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ernest. Dr. Debey asked a question which I thought is not even my question. Why do countries borrow? I also wonder, why do countries borrow? But problem might be from the perspective of business. I have come to realize business, not just business. Yeah, business. You probably won't do very much bigger things without borrowing. So you somehow, somewhere need to borrow when you have a good project. So governments claim they borrow to be able to do infrastructure, because without borrowing, we wouldn't do infrastructure. And I think personally, borrowing in itself wouldn't be a problem. We would have no stringent debt on us if we were not wasting and stealing the money. We saw what Magufuli did for Tanzania by just revisiting and revising projects. He was able to save a lot of resources and put those resources to very good use. So borrowing could have good reasons. I think the problem is how we are using the money that we are borrowing. And then also our personal, I suspect that our personal appetite for the money causes us to have those ulterior motives when pushing for new loans. When we basically, what we want is that when the loan comes in, I can access more money, because the other one already accessed is gone. I can't access anything more. And so I go and dream up another area where we need to borrow and dream up budgets like that. My parting shot is that, whereas we have been threatened by World Bank and the USA, we should take this as an opportunity to rise up onto our feet and to make our own systems and economy work. We need to cut back on expenditure. We need to rise up in fight of corruption and cut back on expenditure. I want to think that something that the IGG is not including in her report, which I think is a form of corruption, is a very huge public service, a very huge public expenditure in form of too many MPs, too many advisors, too many ministers. I think is a form of corruption, is a way of endorsing corruption, is a method of corruption. Someone recently, I think, wrote about the corruption of rewarding. Actually, I think it's a presentation, it's an interview where it says, you know, it's a way of rewarding people. I make you, the president makes you a presidential advisor or something, some redundant position on which they can spend on you. Says, get him a double cabin, get him this, get him fuel, get him a worker, get him a driver. We need to cut down on these as a way of trying to stand on our feet and taking advantage of what is being slapped on us in form of punishment. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to be a chief conversationist. And I hope that our conversation today helps us to think better and to do better as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. Carter, over to you. I'll just remind you of the question. What do Ugandan young people learn from what happened in Kenya recently? Carter, if you could just answer that in 30 seconds and also give your concluding remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. I recently saw a tweet in regards to what has happened to Kenya recently. Someone was saying that what has happened in Kenya cannot happen in Uganda. I don't know why they said that, why Ugandans are not as brave as the Kenyans, but Kenyans have actually achieved what they were writing for. And what Ugandans should learn from that, or the Ugandan youth, aside from being brave and courageous like the Kenyans, is that they have freedom of speech and expression as enshrined in the Constitution, or in Chapter 4 of the Constitution. So they can express themselves freely, and they can also give their speeches freely, because there is the democracy in Uganda, much as many young people believe that the democracy in Uganda is just on paper. But we have the right to express ourselves and to choose the leaders that we want. And in the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, in Article 1. This is the famous article that Bobi Wine is always talking about, that says that all power belongs to the people. All power belongs to the people, who shall exercise their sovereignty in accordance with the constitution. So the Ugandan youth, all Ugandans, power belongs to you. And no one can take that away from you. So what happened in Kenya should teach us that power belongs to us, and there is democracy. We can express ourselves. If you are dissatisfied with something, express your dissatisfaction. But I wouldn't personally advise Ugandan youth to resort to rioting, because many people lost their lives in the protests, which is not a very, very good thing. Losing life is something so dear, and it can never be regained, much as you are fighting for the struggle or whatever case it may be. Rioting cannot be the better option, but dialoguing and expressing yourself in a more reasonable manner is actually something that Ugandans should learn from the Kenyan riot. I hope I have answered that one. My parting shots from today's discussion is that much as the budget has been given, much as corruption is being tackled, and other sectors in like infrastructure, we really appreciate the government, but the implementation should go on to be hard, because it is really lacking. There is a lot of embezzlement happening. There is a lot of poor quality being given in regards to the implementation of such projects. So I do not know, maybe Mr. Mutyaba can guide us on how the implementation can happen in Uganda, to see that whatever has been prioritized in the Ugandan budget is actually implemented fully, and we can see the results. The taxing bit of this of it, we can diversify taxation and do not double tax people. There are so many things that Ugandans can be taxed about. The speaker, Anita Among, talked about taxing her cows. She has a lot of cattle, but none of them has ever been taxed, yet she can sell each cattle at 2 million, yet they do not tax it. So if we diversify the taxation base and implement whatever has been prioritized in the budget, I think Uganda could be in a better place, because when we look at the vision of the president of this nation, Uganda, it is really clear and persuading to follow. But when it comes to the implementation, it becomes harder, and we resort to calling all politicians and leaders liars and hypocrites. Otherwise, thank you so much. This has really been, I thought, an insightful discussion. Have a blessed week and a blessed month.
And a blessed financial year. Thank you very much, Kata. Very rich discussion. I liked your response to the question. At least I am now I am now confident that we are having a responsible youth leadership, because I'm glad that you're able to recognize that it is possible for us to voice our concerns in a non-violent way. That to me is a big, big plus. Thank you all. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Kata. This has been an engaging discussion. Thank you to all of those that have joined us today. Please join us next week. We shall continue delving into this financial year and the factors surrounding it. God bless you all. And once again, thank God it is Monday. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming. See you again.